Welcome back. I've been waiting for this for many, many days. Half a year. I've gone through half a year of mourning, really, anticipating this moment right here.
You make it sound as if we've been estranged from one another. But the box, what is the slogan? Stronger together.
Together. I'm so thankful to be back in this seat with you, Timothy Joshua.
What it do?
There it is. Now they know where they are. People were confused because it's been months. But now they know, oh, nope, it's not a mistake. It's not a drill. We're here. It's Nice Try, Season 2. Welcome back. And what a time. What a time to be a fan. What a time to be part of this movement. So much excitement in the air. We're recording on the Thursday before the match. So tomorrow is Bok Friday, and I feel like people are ready. We had a good practice against Wales, which we'll start the show off with. And now we're ready for the real stuff, as you like to talk about appetizers and entrees and things. Where are we with the meal? Did we just have tasters or canapes against Wales?
To be honest, I forgot about that game.
Sure, okay.
As any sort of measure of a diet or a meal. I think we've gone straight towards the main course.
So Wales was chopping the vegetables and having that sneaky carrot.
Yeah, that was
it wasn't even part of
when you're eating from the plate or eating from the braai, let me just taste how this tastes, Okay. Do I have the seasoning correct? That's what I think.
Okay.
I think that's
okay.
fresh off the dome.
Okay, I like that. For those of you who didn't sneak something or taste the seasoning and spice levels, 2 weeks ago we played against Wales, beat them convincingly, comprehensively, 41 points to 13. And let me just, for some color, the halftime score was 14 points to 13.
Yeah.
So that's what Timothy means by there wasn't anything to eat in the second half. It was the Hunger Games. That match was, of course, an unofficial test. It was at Twickenham, so a nice neutral ground.
This was the Qatar Airways Cup.
Yes, and now we're back-to-back winners of that
Back
cup.
to back to back to back.
Yes, it was an entertaining match though, and for a group that hadn't played together since the World Cup final, it was nice to see. It was by no means perfect or flawless, but there was a lovely energy, and for us as fans, it was a treat.
Yeah, I think probably a bogey game for Springbok teams of the past. Given that we haven't been together, that these players, some of them really haven't played on a high level. No disrespect to Japan, but to have maybe one lull, I would say that first half.
Yes.
And even then, to still put up points and be stingy on defense, and then just to turn it up completely in the second half, and then bloody youngsters.
Yes.
And to keep a clean sheet in that second half, I mean, it's mightily impressive. Some enterprising stuff in attack as well. So I think it's definitely a case of our lower lows.
Yes.
That we're not plummeting or playing down to our opponents. And so from that perspective, like you said, it was a treat. And I'm sure the coaching team got what they wanted out of it, to get that cohesiveness again. And
you mentioned two things that got me excited was this new attacking style. It was, we know how to do it, but there was something different here. There was maybe because the match had no real bearing, they were feeling a little enterprising. I don't know, the way they were swinging the ball at times, and also what you said about the young ones. And of course you, someone that you spoke about in the first season of Nice Try, you gave him a special mention even though he wasn't involved in the Springbok setup at the time. Well, not the World Cup setup anyway. Sasha Feinberg, Ngomazulu. What a moment!
I think that's probably on par with the scrum free kick. just in terms of announcing and iconic,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
Because you see, obviously, with Damien's call for the scrum, that was planned.
Yes.
But Sasha almost went off the off the script a bit because you could see the coaching box were like, does this man have this? You got the facilities, and like to slot it the way he did with legs. I think that could have gone much further if he wanted to. And it's speaks to his confidence as a player, and obviously his ability. And yeah, I'm excited to see him. I think there's obviously things that he needs to improve on, and I think just the experience of that game, and then obviously the tests to come will come at a vital time for our preparation for back to back. So yeah, very happy to see him. Other youngsters, I mean Jordan, I would have liked to see him had the roles been reversed, to see if it was maybe a platform issue, in the sense of Sasha comes on the teams now, really the wheels are greased, and he's got a much better platform.
Yes.
The rust is a bit shaken off. I felt obviously he didn't have as convincing a performance, but the talent is still there. I think in terms of stats, shout out to analyst Gus on Twitter, was giving his battle stats, and Jordan ranked number 1 of South African fly off. So I know Rassie won't also throw him away just because of this performance. And then obviously Edwill.
That was the highlight for me.
Definitely.
Because, and it's always, the players overseas, or the players with the traditionally snazzy superstar teams, the Western Province Blue Bulls, those guys. And then you get Edwill, who's, he's watching these matches. He's not involved, like the others. So him getting that opportunity and making the absolute most of it. And I'm not even talking about the try. I'm talking about that double tackle in the first half. That was an announce himself kind of moment. Yeah,
no, that was crazy, because that looked for certain like a try, and the Springbok staff definitely, that is something that will please them, greatly, because it's to put your body on the line.
Yes.
To be adaptable, because obviously it's one thing you practice a move, okay, now it breaks down. What do you do after that? Like, you can sit there and sulk that you didn't execute, or you just move on to your next assignment. So I think he had it like a complete game. What a debut. So it'll be exciting to see what they do with him, because that scrum capped wing quota that we have.
It's tough in that position. I mean, with Sasha, we are, the fly half. That is an area where there's room. But Mapimpi was enjoying himself against Wales. Of course, Kirtley is Kirtley. Cheslin is the greatest that's ever existed. So it's a tough position, and you can't forget we have Kanan waiting in the wings as well. Literally. That was so great. It is a tough position, so you kind of have to play like that to be noticed. So well done to Edwill. Now, I'm just looking at this weekend. Sasha, of course, he's on the bench for the Irish match, but then got 2 other players, Salman Murat and Gerard Steenkamp of the Bulls. Gerard, of course, like you mentioned before we recorded, he was unavailable because he was playing that final against Glasgow. Oh, what a final. So they're in the mix. Any thoughts there?
I mean, Gerard's more of a known quantity. He was a backup, or like a reserve squad member for the World Cup, and he played a couple of tests just before we left. So I'm sure they know what to expect from him. Obviously, Kitsov, unfortunate with his illness, so I think they've already earmarked him, and so he's used to the structures. I'm not expecting anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
It will be a real litmus test for Murat.
Ooh, yeah.
He started his sort of underage career very promising, was very dominant in the age group categories, and then had a slew of injuries. So depends if he can get anywhere close to what he was, then I think we have a mainstay, because I think he's only 26. So it's something that we have to look forward to. Yeah, for me, I'm a bit, it's a bit questionable because his performances didn't warrant it.
Yeah.
And it might be a case, Rassi says he doesn't always choose the best players, but he chooses the players that will fit his system.
Yes.
And that might be the case. And so I'll watch this keenly. Yeah, I felt like there were other players that had a better season.
Yeah.
Ruan Nortje, definitely. And then we obviously have injuries. Sean Klein is out. But I don't know, everything of the best for him. I hope that he does well. And he has that leadership.
Yeah, he's got that experience.
With the
yes.
Stormers. And I
Yeah.
think he can put that 20s as well. So it's not obviously by no means a poor player. But it will be interesting to see how he gets along.
So, two things there. Is it tricky because that again is a position, unlike the wings, the endless supply of wings that we've got now, these incredible world-class wings, are we getting poorer in the lock department? Is this something that we need to be thinking about? That was number one. And then number two, for me, locks, and I think we talked about this when we did our greatest of all time team as well. For me, it was always about combos as well, because the lineup, that set piece where the locks really do a lot of the heavy lifting. Wow, it's been a while. So yeah, those are just two concerns I have that I'm hoping you could just chat us through.
I was looking at the squad and their ages, and obviously forecasting 4 years, how deep will our talent be? Because we have a few that will be in their 30s, mid-30s, even some like mid to late 30s. But then you look at the position, the lock position, and you look at Victorino and some of these players that have played Paul O'Connell at a high level.
Yeah.
So it's not a concern per se, but you want to have that backup that can fulfill that, because obviously as players age, injury becomes more likely than not. So and even just recovery, that is probably more concern. Looking at the squad, but there are some young players that are coming up that I think can definitely fill that void. And it also, like you said, it depends on the combination.
Yes.
I think we're probably still missing like a line-out specialist, someone that can really dominate that side.
Be a nightmare.
Yeah, like Elvin's not that. And Erge is that to an extent, and then we just have a bunch of bruises. Really. So we need someone a bit more on the cerebral side. Not that those guys aren't smart. It's just that's not their forte.
Yes.
Victor needed your buckies.
Yeah. So
Victor can get
They
in.
could balance those.
Yeah. So it will be interesting to see. I haven't seen anyone coming up in the youth ranks. Ruan Nortje is probably the closest. I mean, he had a great season
He
with
did,
the Bulls.
yes.
Very underappreciated, but yeah, we'll see how it looks in terms of what the future holds.
So we'll be keeping a lookout for those two players. Let's talk about the match. There's so much hype because, it's retribution, redemption, revenge, all of these things. The narratives are incredible, just, as it is when it comes to South African rugby. Sure, we lost in the World Cup. It doesn't matter. The trophy is still in our cabinet. There is no revenge. Revenge might have been had they made it to the final.
Yeah.
Then we could talk about that. But
A semi-final.
I don't think any of those narratives matter, but that's obviously, what the media's doing and fans can get behind that. But when it comes to motivation and narratives and what's on the wall, what's Rassie got pinned up for this week, do you think?
Sam Warburton. He's not Irish, but he's been an enemy for the Irish. Not only in the Six Nations, but apparently in outbound tours. And I mean, Victor already had a go at it. If you guys haven't seen it, it's a clip of Victor and Swiss
Yes.
on SuperSport after Sam Warburton said that South Africa aren't the number one team in the world, which I think is farcical. Like, it's crazy that he would even say that. But that aside, I like how SuperSport actually, the promo and SA Rugby also released a video talking about in what sport do you have
Yes.
to prove yourself
Yes.
that you're the best in the world
when
you win the World Cup. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it's almost as if they are, and I think this is hangover obviously from the World Cup, because I'm not sure if the Irish media are as strident in their opinion just because we have won the World Cup. So that's obviously taken a chip off that, that invective. So I think it's just a case of us righting wrongs. We have a losing record against Ireland in the last 10.
Yeah.
I mean, most of them have been in Dublin. And I think that 2022 game, if I'm not mistaken, was a close game as well. Yeah, I think the Boks just want to show that it's not a fluke. And just because you didn't make it to the final doesn't mean that we are not, the best team in the world. And this is 2 Rugby World Cups, mind you.
Yes.
It's not just, let's see, Jared Wright, he usually gives us the number.
It's
They
1,704 yeah.
of being
More or
world
less.
champs.
Yes. Yes.
The rankings, they don't really matter.
Nah.
Win it when it counts.
When we do look at the teams on paper, you see that Ireland, they're fielding a team dominated by Munster and Leinster players who, of course, did make it to the semi-finals of the URC. What does that exposure, and by exposure I mean to each other, the South Africans being part of the URC now for 3 years, what does that mean when it comes to these contests? Sure, we had like 1 and 2 players playing among them, but now they're playing each other for a couple of weeks, and also these, high stakes matches like the semi-finals, which the Irish teams lost. But anyway.
Yeah, I think this is a case you get, a southern supremacist talk about the rugby regions, partly because iron sharpens iron, as the Springboks and the All Blacks used to be contending in Super Rugby level. And so I think they are definitely benefiting from this arrangement. That being said, it's still another thing, when it's a Bok jersey versus club rugby.
Yes.
The Springboks carry way more responsibility, than your Blue Bulls or your Stormers or your Sharks. When they struggle to sell out Loftus, it's not the same.
Okay.
It's not the same.
No.
I'm not taking a shot
No,
at
no,
the
no.
Blue Bulls.
It isn't the same, but there's more. They have more clues. Of course, it's not Rassi,
Yeah.
and it's a different system, but just for the conversation.
No, I think the gap is definitely narrowed, and because there is that exposure, you have that familiarity,
Yeah.
and that helps calm nerves because it's pictures that you've seen before.
Yes.
It's experiences that you've been through, and you felt the atmosphere to a
Yeah.
degree.
Yeah.
There is that level that I don't think you can replicate when it comes to the Boks. The thing is, with our makeup of our squad, most of our squad has actually cut their teeth at Super Rugby. So there is still that that gap
Okay.
that exists. I think maybe as the new generation is consistently exposed to the URC, we might see that gap narrow. And obviously also there's the things with the travel during the
Yes.
URC.
Yes.
They typically don't send their best teams. So I'm not sure if those players are actually going to be playing for Ireland. Maybe they're doing it as an investment for the future, because it's typically, the Dragons, when they played the Stormers at Stellenbosch, the average age was 23. So it's not, I'm not sure where that's going to help
Yeah.
you. Clearly didn't help them in the test 2 weeks ago. But I understand what you're saying. There's
Yeah.
definitely also, like, in terms of coaching intellect, that is definitely making a massive change. You'll see the structures that we are playing with, and they are also adopting. Someone like you saw it at Glasgow. That was
Yes.
that was a very gritty
That was so South African.
Yeah, definitely. Even the
It
way
was beautiful.
the way the players are approaching the game, there's this level of intensity, and I don't know if aggression is the right word, but in terms of physicality.
Yes.
Yeah, that was definitely missing, in the European competitions. But I think that with the proliferation of coaches moving, I think that you'll see that that's having more of an impact than I think the players playing an odd game every now and then.
So what are we going to see this Saturday? What are we looking forward to? Is it going to be ball swinging, lots of moves? Is it going to be that ferocious start we saw in the World Cup where you couldn't actually catch your breath? That final before the final intensity. What are we looking forward to? What do you think we're going to see? Because on our side it's a lot of the same faces, a lot of the same bodies.
Yeah, I think because it's a bit awkward because it's a two-test series, so you won't get an outright winner, apart from a draw. But I actually think it might be quite cagey. Just because Ireland, I think they don't want to be in a position where the second game they can't win, so they might just try and keep it tight. Because they definitely would have learned from the Leinster experience, and how the conditions play. It's going to be a nice, in terms of climate, it's going to be a wonderful evening. So that won't be an issue. But I just think they might be wary of what South Africa can do should the game be open. It's not as if South Africa are going to be the super conservative team.
Yeah.
We will punish you if you give us the space. I remember Ireland playing very narrow in that first test, or not the first test, the World Cup test, playing very narrow, biding their time to pick out their opportunities. And so I think we're going to see the same sort of back and forth, jab, feel each other out, take your points when on offer, and when the opportunity strikes. And then we'll see how unfolds from there. But obviously they're missing a few key pieces. Gibson Park as a scrum off is probably one of the more important pieces in the typical Irish way of playing.
And he played a big part in that World Cup match.
Definitely.
Well, in their World Cup.
Yeah,
as far as they got.
Very adequate replacement, had a good season as well, and even his adjustment to the Irish team has been sort of seamless. But Gibson Park, I'm not sure, if they'll be able to fill that void. And then obviously they're playing a debutant at fullback.
Who's been lauded.
Yes.
Talk about hype.
Yeah, no, it's weird because he plays centre at his club team. So yeah, it's really sort of a wild card. Not that I think, this coaching staff would be caught unawares, because obviously you look at things that players can execute on and their skill set, and you can see if they are threat. Apparently there's very big emphasis on his ability to kick from the back, so we'll look at how Vali managed that game against Leinster, and I'm assuming they want to have the same sort of game plan. And if that is the case, then I think it's going to be a slower burn. Look, for me, I would hope that it's something like a 50-30. I wouldn't mind that, but I think it will be much closer. In the first game, the second game, it's anyone's guess.
Earlier this week, Jason Colby told the media that looking back on the World Cup match, they could have gotten it over the line, but they missed a lot of opportunities. They didn't execute as they should have. So that's going to be something that they have to look at. Now, some of us watched Chasing the Sun, of course. They didn't look that upset during the halftime of the Irish match. And I'm just wondering, because you were talking about, it being maybe a little cagey, people holding back. Because of the pools and how we were still able to win the World Cup even when losing against Ireland, those factors, does that come into play when, not finishing, not executing, because you kind of, it's okay if we don't? Is that a thing in professional sport, or are we just being weird as fans going, like when Rassie speaks to the team and he's like, you're all liars. You said you would die for your country, but you're a liar. Like, are we as fans, are we the ones going like that, looking at them, not being too beaten up about their loss, and how that's what we're feeling, and now we're looking at this match going, there's no big trophy, there's not enough stakes, so you're not dying for your country. Does that come into play, or is it just a match?
Yeah, because Rassie was definitely not happy with the result, and you could see that definitely affected him. I think he kind of wants to settle a score there.
Okay.
But I guess in the World Cup, you need to be in two mindsets.
Big picture.
Yeah, you can't let one result ruin your whole campaign.
Yeah.
So I think it was right for the Springboks. Also because, the Scottish game was under our belt. Would have been fantastic to have seen us play Ireland in the first game. That would have been humdinger. And I think all cards definitely would have been shown because that would have made or break. But in terms of what Chesney also said in the execution, that was definitely the case.
Yeah. Up to the last second.
Let's not talk about missed penalties and also set pieces. I think we missed very crucial lineouts on their 5 meter. We want to rectify those wrongs. And I feel like South Africa, at least this iteration of the team, want to show every team that whatever you're good at and what you might have maybe misconstrued as South Africa's strengths, we have strengths everywhere.
Yes.
It's typically said that South Africans are these big, overwhelming, aggressive
Mutants.
Yeah.
Those are the words.
And I mean, the match day 15 are on average bigger than us in weight and height. So it just goes to show that South Africa is always fighting sort of negative stereotypes.
Yes.
And I think the coaching team want to show that whatever you're supposedly good at, we are going to beat you at your at your speciality. So I think that might avert the coaching staff in particular to not be 100% on what the Irish would deem their speciality. Execution, tight phases, low penalties, forcing the error. We exchange jabs, and I think South Africa probably want to make it a one-sided fight, just to show them, listen, we can dance samba, waltz.
Yeah.
We can do it all.
Yeah.
Whatever dance.
Yeah. Hello.
We'll show you.
Yeah.
And
give
so I
it
think
your
it's.
shot.
I think the coaching desire for the win. Hopefully they can translate that to the players, because it is a tough leg now, because these players some of them haven't stopped playing rugby. So you wonder what sort of break they really had. I mean, even after the World Cup, you'd expect, okay, most players were spending time with family. The Springboks had to be on the road touring. I mean, it's not the same, but
It still takes its toll.
yeah, it's not downtime. So I think we might see, and I'm not forecasting, but it would be natural to see a slump after
Yes.
the high of this. And I think we'd probably want to blood more youngsters, because they have that desire and that fire to want to prove themselves. And in the same way, it burns the fires under those that are already established, to make sure that, hey, this is my domain.
Lots of factors involved in two, and they could play a role or maybe not. Altitude. They are playing at Loftus, and we're always talking about how that plays a part. It's part of the team. It's part of the advantage playing on the high felt. But then looking at that URC final, and you were kind of waiting for that to kick in, but it just didn't. It's like Glasgow used the altitude to revive them and give them the energy that they needed to finish out that match. And then something that's a little maybe nonsensical, Ireland get to wear green.
Yeah.
So these factors that aren't really they have nothing to do with the actual playing of the match, but does it make a difference?
Yeah, I think obviously it's nice when your team can wear its traditional colors, but if I recall correctly, the last time we played Ireland, they played in their alternate kit.
Yes.
So I think this is a World Rugby.
Yeah.
It just happened to be that in the last World Cup, we were the home team as well. So it's just one of those things. I don't think that's going to change the fact that Loftus is going to be green. Whether that makes them feel at home, I'm not sure. But so we'll have to play in our alternate kit. With regards to the altitude, Glasgow, and this might be sort of a warning maybe for the Springboks, or something to consider, is they traveled here previously, just before, I think 4 weeks before they played that semi, they played the Lions. And so they got a taste, and they did terribly in that Lions game. Lions team, they were down to 14 men.
and still.
Yeah, still smashed them. And so I think they definitely took key learnings away from that. And then just physiologically, maybe there was an adaptation, or at least a measure of understanding and changing your game plan to adjust to the conditions. Now, the onus would obviously be on the Springboks to make the conditions matter. So if we're playing a game that is going to give them short fields, it's going to be like we're playing on the coast. It's not going to be to advantage. So I definitely see that the Springboks will probably try and push, especially the forward pack. Obviously, that's where the game is won or lost for South Africa. Move them around. So it'll be interesting to see. And this is something that I saw in the Welsh test, that our backline is especially getting more involved in tight spaces. I mean, that's where the try from Edwell came from, and it'll be interesting to see if we go that route to tire them out, because we have the fleetest of the fleet, Chislin and Kirtley. Kirtley obviously being a master in those conditions, and I see Kirtley scoring tries now where he's carrying 5 people over the try line and bouncing. I was like, I don't know, this is definitely a new element to this game. I mean, they never shied away from the physical things, but to put that pressure on their forwards, and then obviously I think our bench is, no disrespect to Ireland's bench, but it's a bit more just in terms of experience. It's day and night really. So we'll see how that works. But Lee will obviously be once again integral. I'm not sure what the turnaround is for head injuries and how that plays with your psyche. It will be very interesting from that perspective. Physiologically, as you enter Loftus, I think it says altitude 1605 meters. It matters.
So there's lots to look forward to, those matchups, young players out for revenge of sorts. Lots of factors will be part of that match, but Timothy is predicting 50 points to 30. It'll be very entertaining. Now, just to turn our talk a bit, you were talking about the coaching staff and coaching team. Tony Brown and Yaku Paper, they're part of the setup now. What are your thoughts so far? Are you seeing the changes? Lots of the players are talking about Tony Brown and his, what he's doing in terms of attack and the things that they're getting to learn and develop in that way. So that's obviously exciting. And then, of course, that iconic scrum situation in the World Cup, that was probably Yaku's first known involvement or contribution, but now it's great to have someone like that with that kind of experience at that level when it comes to the laws, which of course Rassi is, it's part of his it's what he does.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Brown obviously has experience in South Africa, and I think we can see it's not a fully fledged. I think if they are sort of piecemealing it, because it's not a typical South African. That's not our bread and butter, shall we say. But it's just another feather in our cap. So it's going to be interesting to see how it develops. I definitely saw some signs of it. It's just more options on the ball, where South Africa was very straightforward. You could see it, but as much as you can see it, you won't be able to stop it. But I think there's another element now. You can see it, but are you actually seeing it? And then
what are you gonna do
when you
about
do see it, you definitely can't stop it. So I like that sort of variety and the depth of our play. And then obviously Yaku in our technical team is invaluable. And then it's also something that Rassi mentioned about Dwayne Vermeulen. He was remarking on his appointment I don't think he's officially as a coach, because Rassi said he's a terrible coach. He said he needs to work on his coaching, but what he offers the team is insight at the highest level. You know, that not a lot of teams would have, because obviously coaches, when last has Rassi really been in the
Yes.
you know, in the trenches, there's something missing there, and especially with how refs call particular games and how the speed of the game is. Dwayne has that familiarity.
Yeah.
I mean, he played his last test maybe a few months ago, so that's something where you see the foresight, you know, that Rassi and the coaching staff are looking into. So I think it's just looks like it will be much and very beneficial for the squad.
Great, so that match is at 5 o'clock, that's South African time. Springboks take on Ireland at Loftus, but that's not the only match this weekend. Lots of action. You can wake up at 2 a.m. in South African time to watch the USA take on Romania. And you'll remember Romania, they had the best kit at the World Cup last. Then at 9 o'clock, New Zealand, England. What do you expect to see there? Is that worth waking up for?
As things stand, I feel like New Zealand are going to win the next World Cup.
Oh,
Just because I have so much faith in Reza as a coach.
okay.
So it'll be interesting to see. I think he still wants to probably change the
Captaincy?
eligibility rules. Yeah, I mean, Scott Barrett, but I think he's still in negotiations. I think we might see something change there on that front. I don't know if you followed much Super Rugby, but it wasn't.
Wasn't what it was.
Yeah, no, it's a far cry from
And that final.
a shellacking. If it goes ahead the way it is currently and the trajectory that it's showing, I don't think we'll have an All Blacks team that's going to be worth anything. So I think he has the cachet in terms of management and obviously expertise and accomplishment to maybe be the one that pushes something, a change in the positive direction. So I think it's New Zealand in New Zealand. That's still not going to. England, I mean, they smashed Japan, and they definitely have some semblance of an identity.
Yeah.
But whether that's enough, I don't think so. I think the All Blacks have enough.
Maybe what should be a more competitive match will be right after that at 11:45, Australia and Wales. Because they're kind of both in shambles. I'm not expecting beautiful rugby, but there might be some desperation, and that can be gritty.
Yeah, I mean, given what we saw in that Welsh test 2 weeks ago, I'm just not sure what sort of level Australia's at, but I do think they have a good coach, so and traveling is always hard and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to give the benefit to the
home
team.
side.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe skip all of those and then just watch Springboks versus Ireland, but what you definitely don't want to miss at 9 o'clock. 3 to choose from. Argentina host France. Chile versus Hong Kong. And Canada versus Scotland.
Okay.
That's what's happening. 9 o'clock, Saturday evening.
Yeah, no. It's a no for me, dog.
Okay, so none of those are worth it, you say?
I think it's because France are not. They send their under 23 team essentially.
Okay.
So Argentina should.
Should.
You know, it's my bogey team. I can't look past them. But I really. Yeah, it's.
Not this
I don't think. I think it's mainly preparation because they also need to prepare for the rugby championship.
Oh, that.
So I think they might use it for.
Some experimentation.
Exactly. So.
Okay. Well, if you're gonna skip all of those, what you definitely cannot skip, because it's a rugby weekend. On Sunday, Western Province and the Bulls in the
Curry
Curry
Cup.
Cup.
Wow. I had no idea that it was.
Oh, yes, that's it's here. So pay attention. But of course, as we're recording this, the Baby Boks are playing against Argentina. Yes, that's the under 20 World Championship. Yeah, we can't give you the result right now because they're still playing while we record this. But they are playing again on Tuesday. They'll of course have a break so that they can watch Curry Cup. But then they're back in action on Tuesday the 9th. Up against England. So if you are in Cape Town, go and support them. They're playing all around the city. Have you been following the under 20s? Do you have any notes for us?
I haven't been following. I've watched a few sort of snippets of the Craven Week.
Ooh,
Wow.
even better.
Wow.
Oh my.
Wow. So yeah, the future is definitely bright.
Yeah.
The future's so bright that I think Stade de France signed one Craven Week lock. The
I see
new
that.
Evan Etzebeth.
Okay, I see that. Weren't we just talking about the locks?
Yeah, but and then there's been sort of a showstopper for the under 20. Lekani played an absolute blinder, doing Fijian things to the Fiji team. So yeah, I think we've always had no dearth of talent. It's just to get them to the
Yes.
the final stages. I think we've always dominated or been very competitive in underage. It's just that we seemingly can't translate them to the Springboks. So hopefully, with the Curry Cup now as well, let those youngsters get them that experience that they need, so that Rassi can do whatever experiments he wants.
Yes.
Playing flanks on the wings at flank, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the future is definitely bright, and if you do get a chance, some of the stuff or some of the skills on show is definitely of a quality that you come to expect from future Springboks.
For sure. Lots of action to look forward to, and we will keep the conversation going. This is season 2 of Nice Try for the fans. We'll take you all the way to that Cape Town Stadium test in September against the All Blacks, the build-up, right here in your favorite podcast. Until next time, Timothy, thank you so much.
Cheers.
This is Nice Try for the fans.